So here we are at question 11 in chapter 5, and if you've been following along through the questions up to this stage, you can see how we've arrived at this point. This question is asking us to differentiate between blamelessness and sinless perfection. Sinless perfection is the concept that you never do anything wrong. Blamelessness is the concept that you never intentionally do anything wrong. You might fail 1,000 times, you might stumble along, you might blunder your way through life, you might offend people, not meaning to, but you do it. You might lose your temper, you might, whatever it is that happens in your world, but in your heart, you're trying to be pleasing to God. You're wrestling your way through some of these things that you're not good at, that don't come naturally to you. You're trying to listen more carefully to people. You're trying to be more patient. You're working with some of those things which perhaps for you are a struggle. But because you're giving yourself to God in the process of the hardest things in your life, and remember, of course, the things you struggle with are not the things that someone else struggles with. We all have our own areas of failing and so forth. Because you're doing what you can, you're fighting the good fight, because there is still lots of wickedness out there. You're fighting the good fight to be faithful to Christ. You're counted as blameless. You're counted as if you'd done nothing wrong. There is no blame because you weren't willfully defying God or willfully trying to harshly treat someone else, to be abusive to someone else. You were, even if you said those things which shouldn't have been said, was it a willful thing, or was it something that you just kick yourself for, and you try to work out how to stop that happening again? So blamelessness and sinless perfection. And so then we come to the truth that there is no stage in your Christian life, no stage in your existence where you do not need the blood of the Lamb. King David, Mother Teresa, Noah, all the way down, Abraham, we need the blood of the Lamb. We need the mercy of Christ, the mercy of God, because we fail many ways, many times, and sometimes we willfully blunder into it, and then we have to repent and come back to Him. We always need the blood of the Lamb, and so it helps us get this thing in frame that loving God with an undivided heart is where righteousness lays its foundation, not in perfect behaviour. For some of us, for some of you, you need to cut yourself some slack and say you need to get used to the fact that you're not perfect. You need to stop whipping yourself because you're not perfect. For others of us, we need to stop being sloppy, and we need to hold ourselves accountable and pull ourselves into line. So there's no one rule for everyone, but it's what's going on in the heart that God is looking at, and it's why the undivided heart is the focus of our book here. We go on and we ask the question, so how does this blamelessness affect issues of assurance of salvation and of confidence before God, our prayer life and our relationship with God and so forth? And I'd suggest to you it affects it in every way. You remember back in 1 Timothy 1 verse 5, he said the goal of our faith is love from a pure heart, good conscience, and a sincere faith. Sincere faith is what we're talking about. Sincere faith is an undivided heart. A sincere faith is I'm genuinely doing my best with what I've got and trusting that God makes up for me all the time, because I know I'm always less than I should be. That's a sincere faith. And a good conscience is saying, and I know it. I know that I love God with all my heart. I know that I made a terrible mess of that today. I should have run that meeting better. I should have dealt with that person better. I should have not been tempted. But I know that I'm following God with all my will and my heart and my strength. It's important to release yourself to blamelessness as well as to hold yourself account to blamelessness, because in blamelessness you'll find the peace that passes understanding. In blamelessness you'll find the good conscience and the sincere faith and the purity, the pure heart, as I follow after God that way. And that's what God's looking for you. Let me tell you, in the next world, in fact in this world, but at least in the next world, God can change all of the details. He can make me whoever he wants to, but what he won't do is force his will upon me. I have to submit myself to his will and allow him to do his work in my life. So I can rest and relax if I know that I'm giving my best, giving my all to God at every stage.